Now, we're going to move on to... There are things in Crystal Lake that are actually worse than Jason. And I wanted to break this down into kind of like sections, so to speak. The first thing I feel that is probably worse than Jason across the Crystal Lake landscape is sexual harassment. there are numerous characters to avoid.
Yep.
And I think we'll just whip through them. I'm going to say our mate Steve Christie.
From number one.
Should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. He probably should be avoided. If you're a woman and maybe in your early 20s, best to steer clear of him.
I'd also throw in
the Daisy
Ned from Friday the 13th. Also someone to avoid. Not only does he nearly kill a counselor with a bow and arrow, trying to show off those 6 skills, he also pretends to drown to get a kiss. And then he also performs a super racist Native American dance.
Yes. He's ticking a lot of boxes there.
Ned's not a fan of Ned,
I'm also not sure why it's during the drowning sequence that Kevin Bacon bars up. Like, that's a little questionable as well. So maybe we can consider what Ned was doing sexual harassment to, by extension. And by a large extension.
A large extension, yeah, exactly.
I mean, I was this close to putting Bacon on the list. Just due to the fact that he almost took an eye out.
Yeah, accidental sexual harassment.
Oh, my God.
You just walk in a straight line, buddy. Right, straight line back to the cabin so you don't hurt anybody.
Can't help it.
Yeah, and good old Steve Christie. Look, the Daisy Duke shorts, the little wispy mustache, the is it a beret or what's he got? What do they call the thing around his neck?
A handkerchief? Or?
Yeah, it's a
handkerchief tied around his neck.
That's questionable.
When he sees Mrs. Voorhees, he kind of makes a comment. The inflection behind his words is kind of like, "Oh, hi." Yeah, what are you doing out this mess? And it's very much a little bit of I've been there before.
You suggesting he's harassed her too.
He was probably only a step away from coming towards her with his hands out.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so let's move to part 2. I'm going to throw Scott into this mix.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if anyone remembers Scott because he's hardly on screen.
Yep.
But he winks a lot, which
he's a winker.
That's never a good sign. He's always going this kind of bullshit. But also, I mean, of all the pranks, and don't get me wrong, Shelley still leads the list by falling out of a cupboard with an axe in his head. But why are you stealing people's clothing and running off like it's bloody meatballs?
This guy. And then he gaslights her once he's upside down. Like, come on, stop messing around. Just take me down. Come on. What I did wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah.
I'm only running around in camp naked. Yeah, exactly. She's like, I think she apologizes to him in that scene, actually, which is crazy.
Yeah,
and that guy, he nails it. I reckon when she runs away, he's hanging upside down, going, "Yeah, got it."
Yeah, that was really definitely his plan. Like when he's doing it, you can see he's trying to woo her, and I'm kind of like, "That's not wooing, sorry, that's harassment, pal." Like, that's a form of harassment. Put the clothes down. Find another prank.
There's another part of it that always made me laugh when you look at the context of him stealing her clothes and stuff. When they're about to go out on the piss, Paul goes, we're going out on the piss. Anyone who wants to come jumps in the truck. And that girl, I can't even remember her name. Is it Terry?
Terry. I think it's Terry, actually, yeah.
Again, she's pretty nameless because, again, she barely gets a lot of screen time. But she goes, I think I'll have a night in. And he just goes, so do I. Fucking
Scott.
Yeah.
He looks super excited about the fact that she's gonna hang out and he's gonna hang around like a Yeah, he's a baby Tom, basically.
Yeah, take it easy, dude. Just take it easy. Yep.
This is the guy that I feel is the absolute top of the pops. Axel from Part 4.
And I don't know if any character in such a short amount of time, makes you disgusted so quickly. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, his opening statement is, "Oh, she's a good-looking girl."
Yeah, one of the corner goes. The corner goes, "Oh yeah, she was a real cute girl. Was, still is."
Oh God!
Holy shit!
And then he ends that comment. Thankfully, it gets cut off, but he goes, "You just go over there and you take your pants down." And then the bloke goes, "Stop that shit!"
Stop. Yep. I mean, Axel again is versatile. Not only is he a pest like in that regard, he fucking puts his sandwiches down on dead bodies and then fucking picks them up and eats them again.
Oh my lord! Yeah, I haven't seen
bases covered. This guy,
I haven't seen a more insensitive ambulance or a coroner since Rob Zombie's ambulance driver's there in Halloween 2. Where they're talking about banging corpses in the back and shit. Ugh.
That's right. Imagine him and Ted.
Him and Axel
doing the job there.
Good lord.
He is just the worst.
Yeah,
he's the worst.
Reprehensible.
He's pretty bad.
And he also pulls the whole he's I love the fact that he goes into that little, I don't know, it must be the morgue, is it? Where he is?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
And it is totally dark except for a screen with a heap of women in spandex going sticking their bums in.
Yeah. We know you're not working out, Axel.
Yeah. You can't fool me, mate. You weren't doing aerobics.
Yep.
And then he starts putting the absolute hard word on that nurse.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It's just horrible.
It is.
His performance. And as I said, he's Fackler at a police academy. I expect much more from him.
Expect better.
I also had Professor Lowe from Jason X. I think that's
Oh, sure.
self-explanatory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyone who's getting their nipples clamped, as you said, Brandon, some sort of future.
Those tongs. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, get that away. Get that away from me. That looked
Although
like
I will say, Janessa was more than a willing participant in this ordeal. It seems.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's less sexual harassment, more just weird.
Yeah, it should not be happening, but
yeah. I think you've got a couple more in the watch out for this person category. I think Ted from Part 4 deserves a mention. He's a little bit more. He's not as overt, but he's wandering around forcing kisses on people, and sorry, Ted, you're in the category for sure. And as we mentioned, old mate from Part 5 that can't keep his fucking tongue in his mouth when he's talking to people. Like he's on the list. I think that list probably
that's one of my favourite guys, mate.
I think that probably comprises the Crystal Lake Sex Offenders Registry.
Right? Definitely, yeah.
And if Part 3 was any indication, Jason was this close to being on.
That's true too. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I also threw Donnie in. I think that's
from the remake, sure.
When you're trying to root a mannequin upstairs in your scummy looking loft.
Yeah,
I don't. He's probably not on the. He's not on the list just yet, but he's definitely on the watch list. He's in the high risk category. So
exactly. As long as he's kept, she took his virginity. As long as that's the only person or thing he's been with, Donnie can keep to himself. That's okay. We don't judge. Yeah. As soon as he gets out, though, in public, it becomes a risk. Yeah. He might join it.
Exactly.
Might join that registry.
Yeah. It's for the best that he seems to be far away from a community. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's deep in the woods. I mean, look, let's face it. Nobody's going out there too often. And, I think he'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm now going to throw out, I think food poisoning's pretty high on the on the list of things that you could potentially get in Crystal Lake.
Yep.
Now, I'd be avoiding these particular places I'm about to speak about, like the plague, because you actually might get the plague from eating there. But the Crystal Lake Grocer, run by Harold and his the absolute bitch of a wife who seems to be ripping him a new ass at every turn.
Yeah, he's introduced manhandling a rabbit, and then he goes around eating brownies and fish food at one point. He's eating fish food. And then
he's putting donuts back.
I wrote down a hit list during that scene. Ooh. I kind of wrote down a breakdown of the scene. So here he goes. He allows his rabbit in the vegetables. He opens up the packet of the peanuts, has a go, swigs some juice, pinches a donut. This is all minutes before seemingly blowing a gasket on the crapper. And when it hits, his wife describes it charitably as sloppy. Describes his habits as sloppy. Yeah, that's saying the least. There's a lot more I would add to that.
I also believe when he's sitting on the crapper dropping what can only be described as the nastiest diarrhea in the history of the bloody film, he picks up a bottle of Jim Beam or Jack Daniels or something.
He's got some Jack Daniels. Yeah. Oh, wow.
I mean, his wife nags him, but judging, we've known the bloke for 5 minutes, and I've already decided that she's in the right. Like, she's put up with a lot. She has put up with a lot.
Harold, you can't run this business if you're eating everything in the goddamn store.
You know what, though, Brandon? I think you said earlier on when we were talking about Jason a little while back was he was more beast than man. Well, I think Harold may also have joined that company because he is definitely a beast.
Yeah.
The worst is yet to come, though. I mean, he gets up off the toilet without wiping his ass or washing his hands for reasons like it's not Jason kind of shakes the toilet or kicks the door open or something. He just hears a noise, a random noise, and just sort of gets up, pulls his pants back up and wanders out. But it maybe thought if he ran into someone bad, he'd just have to touch them. They'd run off on him.
I could never. If I knew Jason was outside, I'd still have to wipe. In perilous situations, I can't do it with as they describe, sloppy ass. I can't do it.
Yeah, wait a minute.
And Harold's not the only one, too, to go this series without wiping their ass.
No. Well, imagine as we've spoken about, Adam, when you try to break out into that first kilometre and you're trying to run it at a 3-minute pace. Imagine trying to do that without having wiped your backside beforehand.
Yeah.
It's not pretty.
You are slowing down.
It is not pretty.
It's easily down to 4.5 minutes a game. It's kind of like it's one of those hobbling ones where your ass is all clenched up.
Yeah, the stingy ones. Yeah, you don't like them.
Oh man. But as I said, like he's just a dirty bastard. His poor wife is at her wit's end with the bloke. Like he deserves all he gets from her. Like she's tried. The woman has tried.
So the Crystal Lake Grocer, look, avoid that shit like the plague. But also avoid Ethel and Junior's place. Don't think to stop in to clean the chook shed for a meal is going to be worth your time, because I'd say it's not going to be.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, it's vegetables in water, but you've got to boil them. You can't just chuck them in there. That's not how it works. Yeah. You have to boil those things.
Yeah, definitely.
And just off to the side, shouldn't Junior have been at the Anger Institute?
No doubt.
For anger issues or something.
Well, they've definitely had conversations. I mean, one of my favourite parts in that movie is when she rocks up to start abusing the people at the institute. And I've already forgotten his name, but the counsellor's like, "My Ethel, looking lovely this morning," and sort of, gives her a bit of stick that way. But yeah, they've definitely had conversations about, take this guy off my hands, would you?
Yeah, yeah. This guy is a lunatic. He gets on his bike when something doesn't go his way. He gets on his bike and rides around like an arsehole in the front yard.
Yeah, I mean, Ethel's she's aware. I mean, that her best line in the movie is, "You big dildo, eat your fucking slop."
Such a charmer.
So, number one, she's aware her son is a big dildo, and number two, she's aware her cooking is fucking slop. So, at least she knows. At least she knows she's in the shit there. Yeah.
Definitely not fit for human consumption. And let me tell you, mate, I'm not knocking on the door when I'm a vagrant. I'm passing that house and continuing on.
Yeah. If Jason doesn't get you, her cooking's going to. You're going to have a hefty fucking dose of gastro. You're going to be fighting Harold to see who gets to the toilet first.
Disembowel you. All right, the last thing that I would I think is probably worse, and I'd avoid like the plague if I was in Crystal Lake, is anything relating to medical practitioners or medical areas, because the Crystal Lake Hospital, of course, has old mate Axel handling corpses, putting food on it, talking about how he wants to have sex with dead bodies. Yeah, he's hardly the right bloke for the job.
No.
But on top of all that, the Ambos from Part 5, they come out of that hospital. One of them's a mass murderer, and the other guy proceeds to tell everyone, if you're looking at a hacked up body, that you're a pussy. You're crying about it, you're a pussy. So there's a lack of empathy.
Yes. And I would go further to say, Adam, that if you require treatment for your medical conditions, your mental health conditions, the Unger Institute and Dr. Cruz are not suiting
not qualified,
your needs either. So,
yeah, well, I'm still trying to work out what Dr. Cruz's PhD's in.
Yes. I think the American Medical Association, or they need to get down to Crystal Lake and have a look at what's going on, because it's a public safety issue. It's a bigger one than Jason.
Quite frankly, Cruz is a fucking nuisance. I mean, the guy is doing nothing. What his PhD's in people with strange bloody abilities to telekinetic powers. Like, is that what he's into? Or
yeah, he's like a Professor X of Camp Crystal Lake, that area. Yeah,
Professor Jason
team.
X.
Yeah, exactly. Oh boy, I could watch that.
He's Professor Jason X. Who, when the chips are down, he'll use you as a human shield. Any chance he gets.
Oh my god.
Oh god, yeah. The other problem with the Unger Institute of Mental Health, I think we sort of touched on it before, is I don't understand how you get in there, because if stuttering's your biggest issue, well, I suggest that you wouldn't be there. And putting two nymphomaniacs in the same place, bad call.
Yep.
The whole thing is just it's just trouble all round.
Definitely.
Also, they've got an orderly who seems to snort a lot of cocaine.
Indeed.
Oh, our old mate is a cocaine feed from way back.
Yeah, he gives it a good go. I think he's going to have to get some treatment on his nose shortly to sort that out.
Definitely. Go 2 towns over. There's no point in going to the hospital here. You'll never know what you might end up with.
Yep.
All right, well, let's move.
Well,
sorry, Garrett.
I actually think I don't know if you're heading in this direction, Adam, but Brandon alluded to it earlier, that when you're talking about sort of hygiene issues, by my count, there's four people in the series who do not wipe their ass after they go to the toilet.
Yeah.
Please enlighten me as to who those 4 are.
So again, we're going for Harold. The most. This is the quintessential. Wrap up of the Friday the 13th series here. Definitive.
This is a deep dive. This is
For me,
who did not wipe their buttocks.
You cannot talk about
full rundown.
you cannot talk about Halloween. Friday the 13th without talking about the horrors of not wiping your ass. I mean, it's prevalent, and the offenders are parts 3 and parts 5. So, by my reckoning, the people who do not wipe their backside are Harold, the stoner. What's his name? Chuck, is it?
Oh, Chuck. Yep.
So Chuck doesn't wipe his backside. Might I add that Harold and Chuck both seem to be wearing whites. They're wearing white underwear. So, guys, like seriously, fuck, you are going to have some real trouble later in the laundry. And then part 5, I believe we have. Is it part 5?
Greasers?
The greasers, the greasy asses don't wipe their backside. And Demon, that's right. So we have 4 people throughout the series who just don't practice. I mean, look, with the situation that we're living in now shows you the dangers of this. Just wipe your ass. As Brandon said, I'm not going to see if Jason's hanging around without doing that first. You're just not.
And the other thing with Demon is you have eaten a large amount of very nasty shit, mate. Like, you should not be singing on the toilet. You should be focused on getting all of it out and cleaning yourself up right, mate.
Yeah, clean up duties.
You've got a lot of work on, mate.
Yeah, especially while your girlfriend serenades you outside.
So put it this way: if I'm going,
maybe that makes him more comfortable.
Yeah, maybe that helps to work it out. I think just look at it this way. I can imagine, like, as we recently watched Outbreak, Adam, I can imagine those scenes of the thing spreading. So you've got Harold at the grocer infecting everything. You have Demon on the toilet, obviously not wiping after he's doing his business, but he's offering food to everybody that goes anywhere near his van. So then take into account that those guys are ending up at the morgue. Axel's fucking putting a sandwich on it. So I'm going to posit that the whole Crystal Lake hospital is infected with this shit too. Like, he wasn't practicing, he wasn't wearing gloves, he wasn't doing any of that shit. So it's rampant. Crystal Lake is going down. Crystal Lake is in lockdown for fucking years.
I reckon Jason's the healthiest man in.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's a carrier, but he's got the antibodies. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
All those years in the swamp and the lake. Yeah, his immune system's fucking top notch.
Well, he's been running his own wet market down at his shack for years. He's just fucking eating animals fresh off the range.
Yeah, look, you're right. Those guys are in lockdown forever, and quite frankly, Crystal Lake is ground zero for any bacterial outbreaks of the past, of the 80s.
Definitely.
All right, let's roll on. Let's start throwing out a few characters that we felt you just didn't get enough. You didn't get enough time with, and you'd like to see more of them across the franchise. I'm going to start with, I would like to see a little bit more of Chuck and Chili out of part 3.
Oh my God.
I guess stoned to the eyeballs. They really don't get much to do, but I would like to have seen a little bit more, just maybe a little bit of character development to see where they were at. What were their issues? You know, the film could have been much better, I think.
I don't know about that, because Chili spends much of her runtime walking around the house going, "Oh my God! Oh my God!"
So the way that I think about this one
where it shows them.
The way that I think about this is we need them instead of Shelley. Just, I think I'd prefer her wandering around saying, "Oh my God!"
For sure.
Shelley we got.
There's one particular scene where they do like a panning shot across the entire group, and they're sitting around. It's when Shelley and the other bloke are juggling, and the shot of those two, especially her, she's just like this. Straight out of her mind. I'm like, yes, give me some context to this. How did we get here?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see where you're going there.
get rid of, you would have been able to take a few minutes off Shelley's just crap that he was up to.
Yep.
I mean, speaking of stoners who almost get no lines, David, I think, from Part 7, who's pretty stoned, I think, the entire movie.
Yes.
But he does get laid. He does get laid, from what I remember, but then he's killed. Like, I just want a little more. What's going on with David, you know?
His character arc is essentially, he goes in there, he demolishes a few cans, he's fucking punching down piss before anything happens. He's not talking much while he's doing that. The next time we see him, he's rolling joints. Then he gets laid. Then he dies.
He gets the whole Friday the 13th experience.
He does. And the whole time he says
minutes.
about 3 words. So
Yeah.
I agree. Let's put David at front and centre. He's the new Tommy for mine. I want to see David as the protagonist.
Yeah, like he comes along, you see him smoking a joint. 40 minutes later, as the movie moves into its finale, he wakes up. On the sofa bed. Oh shit!
Yeah, exactly.
Getting involved.
Yeah. Well, as Luke mentioned, maybe getting so hammered / stoned that you're fucking unaware of what's going on is the way to avoid Jason. Just pass out in a room somewhere. He walks in, sees you're fucking flailed on the bed or something, and thinks, oh well, I've killed them already, so I'm going to the next room. Yeah.
Obviously, I need more of Jimbo from Part 4.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We missed out on some real genius there, I reckon.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of liked him, and I liked his relationship with Teddy.
Yeah.
I thought all that shit was pretty good. Like, they created a couple of blokes who seemed like good mates, and the whole, dead fuck thing was rather amusing throughout.
Teddy was
I would have liked to have seen a bit more.
Teddy was a real jackass, and it seems like one off screen too, might I add. Not to get too.
Yeah, he goes on like a ball bag in that bloody doco.
Yeah, so but you're right. The two of them work together really well. Like that whole dead fuck stuff and the computer is it's one of the best things about the movie. That insecurity that Crispin Glover's displaying throughout, and then, how he's turning around, going, he thinks I'm a dead fuck. He thinks this is funny. And like it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
And I would love to have seen him as the kind of protagonist and taken Jason on with some dance fighting.
Yes, dance fight for sure.
Yeah, I like
he could have taken him on big time, whooped his ass.
Yep.
Part 5, I would like to have seen. Of course, I would have loved to have seen more of Demon.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
His story is just undercut. He's barely there long enough. And I believe he was he supposed to be like a rock star or something? Is that? He's dressed like Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah, or delirious Eddie Murphy or something, yeah. It's out of control.
So, and I assume he was a rock star or a singer or something. I mean, he had pretty decent pipes when he's on the
Yeah, both directions, mate. Had pipes in both ends that were working pretty well.
I would love to have seen more of David. We talked about it before, having like him in a different show where he's running a food van or it's like chef, I could see that really sort of striking a chord with the audience.
Definitely. Absolutely.
I also would like to have known what was actually going on with the greasers.
Yeah.
Because, well,
the greasy asses, as I like to call them.
One of the actors actually says that people have sort of indicated that those two were possibly gay, which, I don't know, they're not on screen long enough to really, I didn't really get that from it.
Well,
I didn't think they were on screen long enough.
One of them does treat the other one like Harold's wife treats Harold, so there could be some sort of, a long developed relationship there. So could be.
I mean, the fact that the bloke's like, fix the fucking car. He doesn't know what's wrong with it. And you give him an absolute roasting about fixing the car.
Yeah.
And you're giving him like 2 minutes? I'm going to take a dump? That's a 2 to 5 minute job. I can't fix the car in that much time. I need 10 minutes at least.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. I think you've pretty much covered a lot of the ones that I had sort of picked out. I'm going to throw... Look, the guy does get a few lines, but Brodsky, Jason X, I need more Brodsky.
Yep. Needed to be said.
Yeah, definitely more Brodsky.
You need to get more Brodsky into the film.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it tried to inject a little bit of the aliens into the situation. We don't really have another Brodsky in the series. Creighton Duke is pretty close, but they're very different. So Brodsky and Duke, I could do with more of either of those guys for sure.
Definitely Creighton Duke, because they kind of made him like super mysterious, and you didn't really know how much he knew. He seemed to know a lot more than he was letting on, but I actually think he would have been better as the hero, to be honest.
I mean,
For
guy has a compound. I want to see what he's doing in the compound.
Yeah, what's he doing when he's not searching for Jason? What's his everyday life like?
Exactly.
I could watch him grocery shop, honestly.
It lends itself to a Buffy the Vampire Slayer type Monster of the Week thing. They talk about how he's taken down 5 other serial killers or something. There's 5 seasons right there. Like, tell us who.
Yeah.
And actually, he gets in on the sexual harassment slightly as well, because he tells the sheriff, remember, your missus doesn't know what she's missing out on because she hasn't had a chance to get in with the Duke. Yeah, there you go.
Oh man, it sounds like Stephen Williams might have been a little bit close to that on set too. But there was
he was wandering around.
There was an insinuation that he might have
around, baconed up.
Yeah, he might have dropped his pants at one point. So yeah, that's a little bit uncomfortable.
Oh, Duke.
I also had this, for some reason I wanted to hear from this guy because he never spoke. His name was Miles. He was in part 8. And yes, you guys probably who was Miles. He's the guy that he appears right early on when they go into the cruise ship with, I can't remember what the main hero's name is.
Yeah, the captain's son. Is that the one?
Captain's son. He's standing right next to him and he's holding the sextant thing in the box.
Yep.
And he disappears. We see him one time when they do the he speaks over the loudspeaker that the ship's going down. You see him in the corridor, and then he runs up the mast and gets thrown off. And I think he does not speak one line in that entire time. He doesn't speak at all. And according to the Crystal Lake documentary, there was a whole backstory for him. He was a swimmer or a diver or some crap. I'm like, I need to know just a smidgen more about this guy. Just give me a line or two.
Yeah.
Anything. Like, because he's just there, like, obviously just there to get killed.
Right. Yeah. I liked the sheriff from part 6. He's got a fairly substantial role, but I could have seen him a bigger one, honestly. He's just a fairly decent character in the series.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
He's also, he's like a standout in the series of someone that's putting like roadblocks in front of the protagonist, but you're still on his side because you're looking at it and you're like, he's making all the right decisions. He's not doing anything out of line here. He's not just picking on campers or anything like that. He's looking at Tommy and looking at the background and going, no, you're not going anywhere. You're getting out of my town straight away, which is a sound decision.
Yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, they make
he's
him
a pretty good dad. You know, and he's got a competent final fight there. I mean, you know, he doesn't do anything stupid. It's not his fault he gets folded like a fucking pretzel or whatever. His spine crunched in half, but the poor guy put up a fight. So.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll give you that. I would have been happy for him to survive.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
Like, honestly, I would have been happy for him to survive because I found him, as you guys are saying, competent, interesting, a good performance. Like, it would have been worthwhile having him survive.
Yeah.
But I guess they had to kind of throw in that he dies, it puts Megan in danger further, you know. He's no longer there to protect her, sort of thing. So Tommy's got to step up. So I get why they did it, but yeah, I could have seen him being like in the next one, sort of thing, you know. Like they kind of did with Halloween, with Sheriff Mika, you know, in the Halloween series. They brought him back for the 5th one. And that was, I actually thought that was a cool move because he was really cool in Halloween 4. So the same thing could have applied here. Although the Friday the 13th members, you know, someone was already writing a script for part 7 whilst part 6 was probably getting filmed. So they were about to roll tape on part 7.
Yeah.
He didn't have time to put him in there. I don't have any. I don't mind Court either. The dude in part 6.
Yeah. See, Court was
Who,
another example of why. This is why I like part 6. All these characters are good, and Court is kind of like your jokester. You kind of the one you're trying to get a few laughs out of, a bit of comedy relief, bit of comic relief. But again, he's likable. You kind of like him. You like having him on screen, like that bit where he's talking about the fucking rocks and talking about how they're markers and all this sort of shit. That was great. Where the kids are looking at each other, going, "This guy's got no idea," you know. But I think that's that a lot of that part 6 stuff was really strong. I think that's why a couple of those characters come off pretty well.
Really well, yeah.
I had
any other characters?
Yeah, the only other one I had was and again, it's not because she leaves much of an impression, but I was always curious when I first watched this as a kid. The FBI agent at the beginning of Jason Goes to Hell, who survives this ordeal, gets him killed, and then I thought as a kid would come back into it later on to like finish the job or something, but it's just completely forgotten. I wonder, it might be a fun. She seemed like she was kicking ass and taking names and.
Yeah, well, she's getting one of the big jobs there. You're going to be working on the Jason project. So.
Exactly. I figured maybe she comes in and assists Creighton Duke, but again, he's not going to take no fucking assistance. He doesn't need no help.
Yeah, he works alone. He's a lone wolf.
Exactly.
Except when he needs help, and if he does, he's got to break a few bones before you can help. So that probably explains why he's a lone wolf.
I need you to help me, but while I explain what we're going to do, I need to break every bone in your head.
Yep.
That's why he's a lone wolf. Everyone goes, "No, I'm not interested."
Yeah, I want to keep my hands.
I like my fingers working. Thanks.
All right, the last thing I wanted to cover, because I think we've got as many characters there as we can slide in, people we would have liked. The last thing I just wanted to look at was Crystal Lake seems to be an extremely large body of water, or as you pointed out, Jared, in part 7, it's 2 feet deep, so it's not really that big. Yeah, you seem to have debugged some of this for me.
Oh yeah, but I wasn't looking at the part where they docked the cruise ship, so that's a whole other part of the lake.
Well, I sat down and just kind of sketched out what sort of shit is around Crystal Lake. Here's Crystal Lake.
Do you want to go movie by movie here and start adding what's in there or what?
Well, okay, let's roll it movie by movie.
Okay.
There's Camp Crystal Lake.
Yes.
Or Camp Blood.
Yep.
I guess you'd call it.
Which is slightly removed from town. We get that in the first one.
Yep. There's a bit of a gap.
Yep.
Also, it's also got to be Camp Forest Green, I guess, because that's what it was in part 6. Now, am I correct in assuming that Camp Forest Green is the same camp?
That's what I got.
I imagine so.
I'm pretty sure it's, it looks, from what I can tell, it's the same camp.
Okay, so that camp's there. Yep. Then you've got part 2, which is another camp called Packnack Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's obviously on the border of Camp Blood.
Yeah, that's a different camp.
They step over that.
They step over and they find the sign.
Camp Blood.
Yep, correct. And
so we must be talking acreage here.
Yep, and we also find out in this one that in town there's a reasonable watering hole that will have you all night. So
yeah.
I mean, the place is pumping. It's absolutely pumping. They need bouncers. They need they need everything.
There's a live band in there.
Yep.
Jesus. Okay, so that's just outside of town. Then in part 3, we've got Higgins Haven.
Yep.
Now, is that a camp or is it a house?
That's just holiday housing, isn't it?
Looks to me I don't know. Like a lot of barns.
Yeah. I took it as a private
barn.
A private holiday residence.
Okay. So that's not a camp. But there's 2 camps and then there's this set of housing. Because you can add the Jarvis house and the house next door, which I'm assuming is also a rental.
Yes.
If you want to get blind and have a big weekend.
But we also,
that's the house you pick up.
Just going back to part 3, we have Harold's store, which says it's the Crystal Lake General Store, right? So it's close. But then the store that Shelley goes to with Vera seems to be a different one. They're not getting food poisoning. They're at the clean Crystal Lake convenience store. So
well, that must be a different one too, because the one from number 2, where Crazy Ralph's shouting at people as well, or number 1, that's a different general store, right? Where they picks up. Or no, he's driving her to Camp Crystal Lake, so maybe that's far away.
Well, that's like a diner in town or something, isn't it? Or something like that.
That's right.
But
yep.
either way, we're just there's Crystal Lake is big enough to sustain a number of businesses, so it's ever growing. The population is thriving.
Unfortunately, you may not get food poisoning at the one that Shelley goes to, but they don't accept food stamps. And they're not real keen on people who have Velcro wallets. Back about 15 years ago, I'd have been in trouble.
Yep. I'd have been right there with you, mate. I think I had a blue Billabong number. used to get into the shop. Yeah, that's $20, thanks.
Nice.
Surely you had a Velcro wallet.
Oh, when I was a kid, I absolutely did. Yeah, I think once I was able to actually put money in it, I switched.
Yeah, I think you go for leather when you're about 25, 26. You think to yourself, shit, this Velcro wallet stuff does not.
Most people go earlier, Adam. I think you hung around the longest. I think I was out of it by about 2021.
Well, it became a problem because women just get too excited when they hear that Velcro strip rip. I couldn't get anything done. Yeah,
I mean, exactly. you can't do your shopping without fighting them off.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man! All right, so coming back to where we were, so you've got a number of shops in close proximity. Brandon, you brought up part 2 where Crazy Ralph sort of hassles them in the phone booth.
Yes, yeah.
There's some sort of bar or shop or something there. Plus, there's a tow guy. He tows the car.
Yep.
So there's a tow truck shop there. Is that the same place as where Annie was at part 1? Because they drive to the camp.
Yeah, I'm assuming I took that as that's the same town as part 1 where they encountered Ennis and Co at the diner, and Crazy Ralph was doing his thing and pestering everybody like he does.
Yep. Okay. So we've got that. That's kind of where your shopping areas and that are. Now you've got the Jarvis house, Higgins Haven, and the house next door to it, which seem to be people's homes and or rental properties.
Yeah, yes. Residential area.
Now, residential area. Like, part 4, the funny thing about part 4 is Rob goes, is there anyone else up here? Like, basically, those 2 houses have been built out in the middle of nowhere. But obviously close enough to the lake, because they do go down for the skinny dipping session and everything.
They do. They're close to the lake. And this is where we get the Crystal Lakes, or I don't think it's ever really said, but it's Crystal Lake or Wessex County Hospital too, Adam. So, as we said, with the finest staff that you could possibly ask for in the hospital, with Axel and Co treating you.
Yeah, the finest that money can buy down there.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so we move on to part 5, Hunger Institute of Mental Health.
Yep.
Seemingly, it doesn't sort of indicate where in proximity to anything else.
No.
I mean, I feel that part 5's in like an alternate universe.
Yeah.
Crystal Lake. And then they also have Ethel and Junior's place.
Yeah, which has got to be close
somewhere.
It's got to be close proximity because the nymphos are able to walk onto their property for a route, so it's not too far away.
Yep.
And I mean, it is still rooted in the universe of Tommy Jarvis. He's brought there in the beginning, so I guess it would be fairly close to his house in the 4th one. I mean, maybe not. I don't know how long that car ride is.
Yep.
Yeah. But then you've also got where the truck stop or whatever, where Demon was peddling his... illegally peddling food stuff.
Dodging health inspectors.
And... the diner where the bloke turns up for Guy's there.
Which seems to be sort of a roadside diner, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have anything else connected to it as far as I could tell.
Yep.
So part 5, that's its coverage. So part 6, we had Forest Green, but we also had the town where the sheriff's office is, which looks much more metropolitan than the other parts we saw in 1 and 2.
Yes.
It looks a bit bigger and seems to have a bit more to it.
Well, we are speeding towards the 2000s here, Adam. So there's been a couple of years worth of development around Crystal Lake / Forest Green.
So, is there anything else in part 6 where they go like a diner or food or anything like that around there?
Just, I mean, the cemetery. I don't know how close they bury their dead to this summer camp for children, but yeah, that's around. Yeah.
Yep. And they also stop where she picks him up by the phone booth is some sort of store, but they don't really say
Karloff's store or whatever.
Yep. So they don't really
say what it is.
That seems to be kind of disconnected as well. So,
yeah. Moving on to part 7, the Shepherds have a house.
Yep.
And then there's the house next door. So again, we're going into residential areas where they're seemingly built on their own.
It's a holiday haven, mate.
Yeah, it's kind of like holiday homes. So they're out there, and I don't think you see anything else in part 7, do you? I think it's all confined to that spot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Where the houses are.
Yep.
Yeah, the lake bit at the end there, right? Or with the doc and her dad and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that's all very close, I believe.
Yep.
To where the houses are. Okay, and then on to part 8, where we seem to have a summer camp when we first open the film, because they show the shot of the two people in the boat, and they're looking at what looks to be a summer camp.
Yeah. So I guess that was the same place. I thought that looked just like
Camp Blood.
Yeah, pretty much. It seemed to be, yeah, all that Forest Green, Tina, whatever, all that stuff seemed to be pretty close proximity, so I took that as the same camp. Couldn't be another one, could there? Shit.
Well,
maybe.
You'd think that anybody who's looking to open a camp in that area would have been reading up on its history and going, yeah, look, let's move it
next county.
Kilometres down the road.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we have the cruise ship dock. Is that on Crystal Lake, or is it a little bit further out?
Like I imagine it's probably where the lake meets the ocean. You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Pretty easy spot, obviously. I guess that's really where all the tourism comes to, because if they can dock ships in Camp Crystal Lake, like, that's nonstop money for that town. That's what's keeping them alive.
Especially given that it's obviously close to New York. You're getting a lot of holidayers from New York. I mean, everyone's trying to escape that fucking cesspit. So
exactly, yeah.
Let's go to Crystal Lake.
I can imagine. I cannot imagine a worse cruise to be sailing to Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah, but people go, well, let's take a nice little holiday to Crystal Lake. Well, they've had a mass murderer there for 10 years. Yeah, but there's no toxic waste barrels.
Yeah. We've got mass murderers out tonight. So there's numerous mass murderers just wandering the street.
Yeah. So, do I want to contend with one guy with a machete or 50 junkies outside, all with heroin needles, threatening to stab me?
Yeah. This is a simple game of statistics.
Yeah. The risk assessment's done. We're far less likely to get killed in Crystal Lake. Okay, so look, the cruise ship baffles my mind because I'm not sure exactly why you would have that there, but it's there. Then in part 9, you've got Joey the diner.
Yep.
And the police station.
The burger joint. Run by...
Yeah, well, that's part of the diner.
Run by what turns into Burger Face by the end of it.
And then you also have the Voorhees house.
Yeah, which looks like a fucking palatial manor.
Yes. And in pretty good nick, considering...
Fantastic.
Nobody's been there for years, I assume.
Yeah.
that's kind of how they kind of couch it. They don't say that Jason's been living there.
Yeah. Maybe that's where he has been doing his cleaning and whatever. That's why the shack's in such disrepair, because he's moved on to the manor.
Yeah, maybe. He's wandering around in a little smoking jacket. And his,
Yeah.
and his slippers every night.
Yep.
And the last thing that I can remember, and maybe you guys can add a bit more, but just the Crystal Lake Research Facility that seems to have cropped up in I think it's in 2050 or something like that. Isn't that where he first gets frozen?
No, so I think it's 2010. I actually think it's 2010 when he gets frozen, and then it's like 25 or 24, 50 years. No, yeah, he's already been frozen. Like, we're waiting on the future.
He's been frozen for 400 years. He's not getting up. He is not getting up.
Yeah.
Even if he's alive.
I mean, if it wasn't for that bumbling tit Asriel, he'd still be there. So we'd all be safe from Jason. But yeah, but it looked like it was a massive research facility too, because they've got the room where Jason is stored is just a cavernous kind of warehouse.
Not to mention that this in 2010, it's a post-apocalyptic hellscape. I don't know what's happened to Earth at this point.
Yeah.
Again, another environmental message they want to lay underneath these films.
Yeah.
All those bloody
I reckon
New
they should have
Yorkers
had a
started-
little scene where it said, Remember the environmental purge of 1983 where Harold sicked the bloody plague back on us?
Yeah, it's all those bloody New Yorkers decided to start moving to Crystal Lake, and then we started, well, let's build a sewer here and start fucking flooding it at midnight too, and then, you mix that in with Harold and people start mutating and all sorts of shit, and then we end up where we ended up in Jason X.
It's a cautionary tale.
I think... And judging by the way these guys fly their ships, I'm sure a lot of Earth was destroyed by the Maywood flight work.
Yeah.
Rode through cities. Oh, shit.
And no one gave a shit.
We know that one idiot was a pilot during the Microsoft conflict, so he definitely, people like him definitely caused most of the damage, I think.
Is there anything else that you can think of that's surrounding the lake?
There's probably a few more things that are mentioned, but I think, that covers a lot of what was seen in the movies.
And I would posit that lake's not big enough for all that shit.
I've never seen a lake that has multiple summer camps attached around it ever in my life. Like, that blows my... You'd be able to wave at the people from across the lake. Like, that's so stupid.
Well, it's
look at
it's this one, and what is wasn't there a competing camp in Porkies or Meatballs?
Oh, no, Meatballs, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's the plot of Meatballs, yeah, I suppose.
But yeah, what though? You could look across the lake and go, oh shit, looks like the Institute's let its patients out for the day.
Yeah, but some of them are hot.
Yeah, imagine, when you're a counsellor picking where you want to go, and Crystal Lake comes across, you think, well, shit, there's often nymphomaniacs just walking around Crystal Lake, so
yeah.
How about that?
I mean, if you want to really throw a wrench into this, you could also try and suss out how close this is to Springfield and Elm Street, and how they try to, you can, in Freddy vs. Jason, I love the fact that they hop in a van and they're like, let's head to Camp Crystal Lake, guys. We'll be there in an hour. And it's like, wait, aren't you several states away?
Yeah.
Yeah, they tried to hide it by putting it kind of like I think they might have tried to put like a time lapse or something, but it doesn't come across at all in the film, so it's kind of like, we're here.
Yeah.
You're here. I only left like 5 minutes ago.
Yep.
Oh, man. Yeah, look, I think that's the entire map of Crystal Lake. And there's a lot there, and I don't agree that it's possible. But,
No.
It's living on its own rules. All right, look, let's wrap this up. We'll finalise this just by getting everyone's thoughts. It's been 11 movies now. Are we still comfortable? It's been 10 years since we had a film.
Mm-hmm.
So the last one I think was in 2009 or 2010.
Yeah,
There's obviously been a computer game that came out, but other than that, we've seen
pretty
nothing
successful
from
fan film too, right? That Never Hike Alone was pretty big.
Yeah, there's been a couple of fan films that are okay.
Yep.
But my question, I guess, to finish this all off is taking out the legal stuff, because it's obvious there's legal issues, and that's part of the reason why it's taking so long. But, I mean, are we all comfortable to see a new film, and where would you like it to go? Do you want to follow the remake, or do you want to just start again? Like, what would you guys think would be the next step for Jason?
I wonder. I like the fact that a lot of these series have been, similar to the Halloween reboot. They were respecting the originals by following, just that one. You can still have your sequels in that whole continuity line if you choose to go that route, or you can just choose to watch this one, and that's this little story. But in terms of Friday the 13th, if they ever make another movie, I don't want them to ever go back to the first one and try to do a sequel to that original, like a lot of these series have been doing. If it were up to me, I think I'd just honestly like a movie where I guess it'd be considered a sequel, where the character's already established. They can set up whatever look they want for him. If they want to go weird zombie, they can, or they can go what I prefer, kind of the Derek Mears version of the character. It doesn't have to be a sequel to that remake, but just a movie where Jason is being Jason at a summer camp. Set it in the 80s, because whenever they try to set these in modern times, it always sucks. But what I realized about watching this whole series is that there's so few movies of just Jason doing Jason stuff at the summer camp, what we all really love about it, and then it's just like they keep trying to do something different, and every time they do, typically it sucks. But the times that they're repetitive, that also is sometimes a hindrance. But I'd like to see someone make just a nice, lean Jason at a summer camp killing teens in the 80s. If they were going to ever make a movie about this, don't try and make this a smarter horror film that we're getting today. This isn't one of those ones that you can put some underlying themes or messages underneath, you know what I mean? Or you probably shouldn't. But if it were up to me, yeah, I would just go kind of a clean sequel. You can throw out all of the continuity if you want and make a sequel to the original if it's just Jason doing Jason stuff. But again, the original doesn't really establish him as a killer, so I don't know how they do that. So I don't know. I don't need another movie, because I think these movies were best when they were in their heyday of the 80s, and that's where, we just kind of evolved from it. But slasher being my favorite subgenre of horror, if you make a fucking movie, this is Friday the 13th in the title, I'm going to it, opening day. So
yeah, I am similar, except I probably do need another movie. I'll take as many as you want, but I agree. I wouldn't make it a continuation of the first one. I would just make, as you said, a new Jason movie. I would probably want maybe to get Derek Mears back if he's still interested to do it, but not necessarily set it within the same continuity or anything like that, because essentially where we got to is everyone was making their own design of Jason. They were taking elements that they liked and leaving everything else. So just do that. As you said, just take your Jason story and tell it with the characters that you want to tell it. Take the continuity that you want, forget the others. Just make your Jason movie of Jason at a camp and get this thing started up again and see where it goes.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you're both right there. I would love to see them just do it right. Like, a slasher movie is not that hard to get right. What you need to do is stick to the formula, but give the characters a bit more meat. Maybe that's the key here. You don't need to have 40 kills in 80 minutes, because that's part of what I think pushed this series into sort of parody. Was that you were just running out characters that nobody knew and nobody got to know at all, and then just all it was just death. I want that, but I also feel that you can do it right by just making it a clean slasher, 1980s set, a group of characters that we like, and Jason doing his thing. I must admit, I would like to see if somebody could come up with something decent from the Friday the 13th angle to go on television. Whether or not you could do something with that on TV and make it a series. Because it seems that going into series territory for some of these things is actually working, because they can build and they can actually explore some things a little bit more.
The big thing...
But the problem with You couldn't do it with Jason.
Well, that's the thing. I think I heard Sean Cunningham's idea a little bit about that, and I was kind of like, it didn't excite me all that much. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, you can't really have Jason, can you? Week after week, we'd get sick of it very quickly.
You know what, though? I actually think you could take and I hate to say this because I dislike this one of the films, but you could take the approach that Part 5 was trying to take, which was the mysterious killer who is acting like Jason, and you could potentially do something with that. You would have to be very careful about how you did it, and you would have to try and integrate Jason as best you could, e.g. his crimes, even what they tried to do in 5 was seeing him as a hallucination. I think it could be done, but you'd have to take a deep look at it and work it out.
I would more look at the Bates Motel model and think maybe talk about Elias and Pamela, because Bates Motel I loved Bates Motel. I thought that was a really great series. So, and the whole series was how Norman became Norman, but it was heavily focused on his mum too. So maybe that could work. It's hard to look at these things and replicate them, but that might be another idea to take.
I guess it has a real interesting fan base, and whether or not you piss them off with that type of thing.
Well, they already did. I remember the comics, the 2-part comic that was Pamela's story, and essentially Pamela's story was the car ride where she picks up Annie. Is it Annie? After Enos drops her off, whatever, she picks up Annie in the first one, and the comic is that we know who has picked her up. So it's the conversation between them, and then they do flashbacks to what led Mrs. Voorhees to become Mrs. Voorhees. So it's a concept that's kind of been explored, but I just think, it's so hard to do it with Jason. And what do you do with Jason week in, week out,
I think if they were to make a movie, it would all come down to, for me, the pitch, the concept, but also if you could just get an interesting filmmaker in there, someone who clearly cares about the material, and someone who's good at kind of like hard-hitting horror. I would love if Alexandra Aja or like Fede Alvarez or S. Craig Zoller even to take up this series and do an entry, like something like that. I think could just shake it up. And if you get a nice prolific filmmaker in there who knows his shit, I think you could come up with a pretty solid slasher for an audience that seems to still want them.
Hopefully Blumhouse makes a hard run at it when the rights open up, because we know that they're always going to look for an idea and hear the pitches and pick the one where it's like, that's interesting, let's go with that, and give it to the people like you've just mentioned, someone who wants to have a good go at it, will do it within the budget, and will get the creative freedom that they want, because that's pretty much what happened with Kenny Powers and co. with Halloween.
The problem you've got with Friday the 13th, as opposed to Halloween, is you could focus on Laurie Strode, and which is basically what they did in the new Halloween. They focused on Laurie Strode. It wasn't about Michael Myers. It was actually about Laurie Strode.
Yeah.
And because Laurie Strode's such a strong character, played by a really strong actress, it works. You don't have anyone to cling to in Friday the 13th.
But there's nothing to say
you can't.
There's nothing to say you can't start with Tommy Jarvis again.
Yeah, you could bring Tommy in
or something like that
and make it about Tommy. And I think that would be probably the first step to kind of build it around Tommy, because you can't really build it around Jason. You could build it around Jason in the 80s because they were just punching out the same film, right? Now, although you want to keep a certain continuity to it and a certain style and keep having the films a little bit like they used to be, you need someone to cling to. And I think Tommy's the guy. If you can get Tommy and make him a character that we can get behind, I think you could get something out of that.
Yeah. I think you probably, if you're picking from pre-existing stuff, I think Tommy's the place to start.
Yep.
Where would you guys put this series, I guess, in ranking of maybe the top guys there?
Good question.
For me, it's always been the one that I've gravitated towards.
Is it still after watching them all again?
Is that because you're a sex pest and you don't like your ass and you don't you find all these relatable people?
I am a noted scumbag, and this my ideals. No, I teetered a little bit watching it this time. There were periods where I was thinking, holy Christ, this is a slog. Like, watching part 8, I could not wait to get it out of the DVD player. I was like, what? This is taking forever. Like, I actually ended up, I was wanting to fast forward, but I just thought, you just can't do it. You just got to watch the whole thing. But if I have a choice when it's coming down to watching these films, it's usually Friday the 13th. Then Halloween, then Freddy. I'm actually less into Freddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and Brandon might be similar because I'm a little bit younger than you, Adam, and then Brandon, you're the youngest of the three of us. But Scream was the one that kind of wrapped me up in horror, even though I was over at your place getting exposed to some of these things and reading Fango well before Scream, Adam. I was aware of these characters well beforehand. I think because of Scream, I then jumped onto Halloween, and Halloween was the next one where I was like, yeah, this shit is just great. So for me, Halloween's always been the peak of the big three. Jason is next. Jason and Freddy have always kind of been close, but I think for me, Halloween is the one that, number one, it was the one that really wrapped me up after that Scream sort of fever hit. And number two, I think looking back on it, it's probably the one with the most number of genuinely good entries, which is it's not a high bar, but I think it's got the most number of genuinely good entries. And I'm with you, Adam. I do love Freddy, but I'm less for the quipping and the carry on. I'm more for the silent stalking sort of Jason and Freddy. Jason and Michael stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
is that how it sits for you, Brandon?
Same, yeah. I go back and forth between Leprechaun and Critters, but I definitely, Halloween's always been my favorite.
I forgot about those ones. I forgot to think about them. Yeah, they're above. That's on a higher level in comparison to some of this other stuff.
But yeah, I mean, then it always comes down to, after, Michael, it comes down to Freddy and Jason. And after rewatching them this time, I think it does kind of cement. There's just a few extra entries in this series that I find weirdly entertaining. And again, this one's got the better remake. I think it's got the better, kills overall when you look at the series. Maybe not in terms of creativity, because Freddy does have a lot of creativity, but in terms of just, the eye-rolling comedy, this one's definitely toned back a bit. And, it's got fucking Creighton Duke.
Exactly. And it's got space.
Yes. Brodsky.
Freddy has yet to go to space.
Demon? Yeah, Freddy's got no demon.
Do you know what? This is what I reckon. Halloween obviously hit it out of the ballpark, so it's going to be surviving for another number of years, because obviously they've got 2 sequels in place. So it's well and truly established again. Friday got the brief right about its remake. It actually did it to the best it possibly could, and took it in the direction that most people probably were happy with Friday. I think that was kind of why it was fairly successful. I'm actually, honestly, I think it'll be quite a while before we see Freddy again.
I think so.
Because the remake was such a turd that I think it kind of... It might have fallen off the radar a bit, and you could probably say the same about Friday. It's been 10 years.
They're taking pictures, like Mike Flanagan. Someone like Mike Flanagan is talking about his pitch for Elm Street. So as soon as, if the rights kind of pan out with the Craven estate, it'll be going as soon as they can. So I actually think Friday is the one that's currently dead in the water compared to the other two.
Back burner, you reckon?
Yeah, because Cunningham and Miller can't sort of sort this out. Well, their legal teams can't sort this out. I think Friday, they've already missed a grand opportunity. If you could have had a movie on the back of the game, you were in business, I think, because that would have been coming around the same time as Halloween, getting some buzz. Friday the 13th had just captured a new audience, even though the game kind of turned some people off. Initially, there was a buzz and a lot of people were playing it. So I think you had captured sort of new people. You talk about your nephew, Adam, like he was into it, and then he watched the movies. So, like, that's exactly the people you wanted to capture with a movie. And I think Halloween is now pole position. Freddy is probably next because I don't think the rights are as tangled as what we're seeing with Friday. And I think Friday has it's already missed a grand opportunity. And now it's just they're fucking just wrestling in the mud at the moment, which is a bit sad.
Friday would be the easier make, for a studio.
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
mean, you don't have to worry about getting an actor of such caliber. You know what I mean? I know that there were rumors of Kevin Bacon, which signed me up. Bacon as Freddy Krueger. Holy shit! Hard or not, I'm watching that. But I got. But yeah, I mean, plus the budget. I'm assuming on a Nightmare film is going to be much higher, especially with today's effects and all that trickery. So I'm assuming that despite the rights issues, I'm hoping Friday gets off the ground eventually. I remember I've also read a lot of the pitches they've had over the years. One of them was a found footage style. That one almost got to production. I really hope they don't go that route.
No, that really doesn't work. I don't know what they were thinking there.
Yeah.
I think there was a bit of desperation in that.
I'm sure.
And maybe it had to do with the rights because, suddenly the rights got tangled up not long after all that shit was mentioned. But yeah, Jared, you're probably right. Freddy's probably in a much better position in that the Craven estate and all that stuff is probably not as big an issue as what we currently have with Friday.
I think,
but Brandon, you've hit the nail on the head that it's easier to make a Friday.
Yeah.
You can toss out a Friday that, you know the formula, you can get it off the ground.
It's
Freddy
just the
needs
rights,
a little bit more thinking.
This shit could be going for years. And I think whatever's happening with Freddy's, it seems it's less complicated. And as soon as it gets in the hands of the Craven estate, I mean, we've talked about wet beaks, Adam. And if you got this sitting there, you use it, you make the cash out of it. And I think that's what is just drifting away with Friday. Like they're just locked in this legal wrangle that I just can't see being untangled anytime soon.
Which is so frustrating because for a series that. For a series called Friday the 13th, no one gives a shit about. I mean, it's just the name. You know what I mean? It's not like Halloween where everyone takes place on Halloween Day or anything. It doesn't do any. It's a great, it's a great image. It's a great title, and you immediately kind of get the tone they're going for. But it's a shame that there's the rights issues is tied up in the title of this movie and this character they were still able to use. Like, I wonder if they could just do something without the title and use Jason somehow.
Yeah.
But you're still going to lose maybe some crowd.
It's funny because Sean Cunningham, although he's, the godfather of the series, doesn't have a lot of respect for it. I mean, you read Crystal Lake and you watch that doco and he doesn't really care for it. It was just a moneymaker for him. But then when Victor Miller says, hang on, it's my moneymaker too, all of a sudden it's fucking all hands on deck, the guns are out. And Cunningham's Mr. Protective. Like, you just got to cut him a slice. I would just say, let's get Victor Miller in on it, bang. Let's make money because at the moment, no one is making money. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I would agree. I'd love to see Blumhouse with this. Because what they did with Halloween is exactly what you need. You need a shot in the arm. I mean, Halloween actually spoke to a younger audience. It didn't just speak to us as fans. It didn't speak to people who love the original. It spoke to everybody. I mean, that's why it made fucking $300 million or whatever it made. The reason being is because it spoke to a lot of people and the marketing and everything was fantastic and it turned out the film was, as advertised, very good,
Yep.
So I'd love to see them take control of Friday. Oh, mate, I'd be happy for them to take control of Freddy too.
Yeah.
I think they seem to be very interested in horror films, and I think they will get it done at a budget and not blow. We need to spend $50 million on this and then not make it back and bury the series type of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable with having another Friday as soon as possible, and as long as they get this rights fucking sorted out. All right, I think that wraps it up. The definitive. Forget about Chris Lake memories. This is it. Fucking, this is 5 episodes probably.
Yeah.
5 episodes worth of this.
Forget about Chris Lake memories. It's them damn enchiladas.
This will test the patience of all our listeners to have to listen to us crap on for 5 fucking episodes about this. But Brandon, mate, thank you very much, mate. Really good to have you involved. It was really, really good time, mate. And I hope that hope that we can get you back for another franchise in the very near future.
Absolutely, no. I'm glad I had a reason to go through and watch these again. Not much on my schedule mid quarantine, so it wasn't too much off my back. Yeah, so.
Well, that's good, mate. But look, and thanks again to Luke for providing his thoughts on the series and his rankings. Keep an eye out on our Facebook with regards to the next episode that we put out. But until then, everyone take it easy, look after yourselves, and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.